Yesterday, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst had a press conference. It was about 30 minutes long, and he touched on many key important aspects of this Packers team heading into the offseason, some different decisions the Packers will need to make on guys like David Bakhtiari. He had some thoughts on Jaire Alexander, Aaron Jones, Jordan Love's contract, things like that. So I want to sort of get into depth and share a few of these quotes from Brian Gutekunst. And if you guys are new to the channel, I cover the Packers news, things like that. So feel free to subscribe down below, drop a like if you enjoyed the video. So first off, I want to start here with what he had to say about David Bakhtiari. And we all know that the past few seasons have been tough for Bakhtiari, dealing with his knee injuries. He's now had 5 total surgeries on his knee. And since signing his contract extension back on November 15th of 2020, he then a month later injured his knee December 31st, 2020, and since that point has not been able to consistently be available for the Packers, which is just unfortunate for him, and it's tough to deal with those kinds of injuries. And he's played in 13 total games over the past 3 seasons. And the Packers now have a big decision to make because of his contract situation. He currently has a cap hit in 2024 of $39.99 million per Spotrac. And the Packers would save about $20.92 million on their salary cap if they were to release him, which would make his dead cap hit, which is his cap hit that even though he would not be on the team, it would still count against the Packers cap in 2024 of $19 million. So they have a big decision to make. And here's what Brian Gutekunst had to say about Bakhtiari and the decision. He says, "We are at the very beginning stages of looking at how we are going to move forward with all of that. Obviously, David has been through a really rough stretch with the injury stuff, and he's going through a very major surgery, trying to get back to be able to play. We are monitoring that, and I know he's working his tail off. Once we get down the road and see where he's at health-wise, we will kind of make those decisions." So he did not come out and say something like, "We are definitely trying to keep Bakhtiari, that is our plan." He sounds like he's more so sharing that the Packers are going to have to see where he's at health-wise before they make the decision whether to keep him, whether to release him, whether to restructure his contract to try to make it work. Not sure how it would work. I don't know if they'd have to give him some kind of extension because he will be a free agent after 2024. So they have a massive decision to make. And I think it makes the Packers' decision easier just because of Rasheed Walker, 7th rounder, who came in as a left tackle, played really well down the stretch. And with Bakhtiari being 32 years old, struggling with this injury, there's no telling that he's going to be able to get back to his former self and stay consistently healthy. And so if I had to guess, my guess and what I would think the Packers should do is to release David Bakhtiari to save about $20-ish million, almost $21 million on the salary cap. Rely on Rasheed Walker potentially at left tackle and, sort of cut your losses going forward. It's unfortunate because when Bakhtiari has played, he's been very, very good in his short stint that he has played in since he got injured. And it's just the unfortunate reality that this knee injury up to this point has not healed completely, it seems, and he continues to have issues with it. And I just doubt that Brian Gutekunst will be willing to risk the future with Bakhtiari, considering up to this point things have not really turned around. Now, if somehow Gutekunst and this Packers front office became confident that Bakhtiari was fine and that he wasn't going to have any more complications with this knee injury, then maybe you find a way to try to keep him for maybe one more season. But I'm just not sure if they're going to be confident in his knee, considering so far he's consistently had some of those issues. And then he said this to end it off here about Bakhtiari. He says that he's in the middle of his recovery. He says here he's in the middle of it. This is not a short one. This is going to take some time. You guys know his work ethic and how important it is for him to get back playing. It was a tough one. He's got a ways to go. So it sounds like he is not close to being fully back. It sounds like even though he only played in one game at the start of the 2023 season, he's still dealing with this knee injury, which is just unfortunate for David Bakhtiari. And if I had to make a guess, I would say he's not going to be on the Packers in 2024, in my opinion. Now moving on to Jordan Love. Brian Gutekunst talked a ton about Jordan Love in this press conference, basically sharing that, Love really improved down the stretch. The Packers are very happy to see the improvement, and they still think there's a lot more he can do. And this is what Gutekunst had to say on Love's contract. He said this: "I think we'll go down that road regarding an extension." He says, "Certainly, I think that'll be important for our football team to have some stability there. Jordan and his representation, they're really good people, so we will start working towards that sometime in the next couple months." I did think the Packers, after the way Jordan Love played, not only to end this regular season, but also his performance against the Cowboys, one of the best playoff performances by a QB all time, and then he had a pretty solid day against the 49ers until end of the fourth quarter, where he throws 2 interceptions. But the Packers are clearly confident in Jordan Love. They know he's the guy. He is currently under contract for 2024, but because he's played so well, the Packers are confident that he's the guy. My guess is he gets at least $50 million a year. That has been my thought for the past, few weeks, month or so, that he's going to become a top 5, at least top 5 in QB money per year, in my opinion. And there's going to be questions as to, how much is guaranteed. Will it be a 4-year contract, 5-year, 6, 3? Who knows? We'll have to discuss that. And one thing that's important to note is he can't get a contract extension until May 3rd, because there's this NFL rule that you can't, have another extension until a year has gone by since your previous extension. And because he got that previous extension about May 3rd last year, they have to wait till that time. So even though they may start conversations in the next couple months, if they decide on an extension, we won't hear about it, and it won't become official until maybe May 3rd or so of this year, 2024. Now on to Aaron Jones. We all know Aaron Jones, I think, is one of the bright spots of this Packers team, not only as a player, but also in the locker room. I think he's probably the most beloved player on this Packers team. And he dealt with lots of injuries to start the season. Near the end of the year, was playing out of his mind when he came back healthy. I believe he had 5 straight 100-yard games from the end of the regular season into the playoffs. And here's what Gutekunst said: "Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd love to have Aaron back. We're still kind of putting all those things together as far as how we're going to move forward. But he was such a difference maker when he was out there this year." What does make things slightly complicated is the fact that Aaron Jones does have a $17 million cap hit in 2024, and he is 29 years old. He did take a pay cut last season at about $5 million, so there's a chance he takes another one. The Packers can probably restructure his deal to lessen that cap hit, and it sounds like that's probably what the Packers will do, but it sounds like Brian Gutekunst expects Aaron Jones to be back, which I think is a wise decision considering how good he played. And I think we saw a difference in the Packers offense when Aaron Jones was not out there. And really the next level this Packers offense got to with Jordan Love, with these young receivers, when the Packers could rely on the running game and had Aaron Jones out there, nearly averaging around 5 yards a carry. Now, I do wonder what's going to happen with A.J. Dillon, because with Jones back, I think Dillon could potentially be gone unless he comes back on a very cheap deal. My guess would be Packers either rely on Emmanuel Wilson, or they also decide to draft a running back in this upcoming draft. And then Brian Gutekunst was asked if he is considering trading cornerback Jaire Alexander, and he said no. So it sounds like the Packers will not be trading Jaire. It seemed like that would be the case, considering to trade him, they would have another $3 million on their cap. It would be about a $27 million cap hit if he was traded. It's already about $24-ish million with him on the roster. So financially, it made no sense whatsoever. And so the Packers will have Jaire in 2024. Then finally, he talked a little bit about free agency, and he was asked if the Packers would be willing to potentially push some money down the road, restructure some contracts to free up more cap space to potentially make signings. And Gutekunst sounds like they're not going to shy away from doing that. He said this, quote, "I don't think we'll shy away from adding any impact players if we'll have to push things down the road." And that's one thing we saw the Packers do during the few final seasons with Aaron Rodgers there. They were trying to push for a championship. They kept restructuring lots of different contracts, one of which was David Bakhtiari. I believe it was 3 separate times in 3 straight seasons. They restructured Bakhtiari's contract to save like $8 million the first year and then around $7 million the next 2 seasons. And so the Packers will be willing to do it this season, and I think that they are in a much better cap situation than they have been in years past. Because in years past, I think to start the offseason, they were somewhere around $10 to $20 million over the cap, and they had to get under by restructuring deals, things like that. And right now, they're in a much better cap situation. Currently, according to Over the Cap, they are $2.8 million over the cap. So that is honestly, I think, much better than in years past at this time. And so my guess is they'll probably restructure some of these contracts to get under that cap, and they may have some money to be able to get some free agents. We'll just sort of keep an eye on that one and see if the Packers decide to make any of those kinds of decisions. So those are the biggest takeaways from the press conference. If you want to see more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.